Hey there, folks. Jimmy Fallon here, and boy, do I have a story for you. Ever heard of Audie Murphy? No? Well, buckle up, Buttercup, 'cause you're in for a wild ride. This guy was like a real-life Captain America, minus the super soldier serum, and plus a whole lot of Texas charm. Audie Murphy was America's most decorated soldier of World War II. But get this, he was only 5'5" tall and weighed about as much as a bag of groceries. Talk about dynamite coming in small packages. This guy was so short, he probably had to jump to reach the top shelf at the grocery store. But don't let his size fool you. He was a force to be reckoned with on the battlefield. He could do it all: shoot, strategize, lead, and even crack a joke or two in the heat of battle. He was so good at his job, the Nazis probably had "Beware of Murphy" signs posted all over Europe. But here's the kicker. This pint-sized powerhouse wasn't just a war hero. He had to go and become a movie star too. Because apparently, being the most decorated soldier in US history wasn't enough for old Audie. Now let's rewind a bit and talk about where this pocket-sized dynamo came from. Audie Leon Murphy was born on June 20th, 1925 in Hunt County, Texas. His childhood was about as rough as a cat's tongue. He was one of 12 kids. Audie dropped out of school in the 5th grade to help support his family. He picked cotton and hunted small game to keep his family fed. By his teens, he was the man of the house. His father left, his mother passed away, and he cared for his siblings. But not our boy Audie. He worked odd jobs and tried to enlist in the military. When Pearl Harbor was attacked, Audie was only 16. He tried to enlist in the Marines and the Navy, but they said, "Nice try, kid." He set his sights on the Army, and the rest is history. All right, folks, now we're getting to the good stuff. Audie finally managed to sweet-talk his way into the Army in 1942, at the ripe old age of 17. And let me tell you, this kid took to soldiering like a duck to water. Or maybe more like a piranha to an unsuspecting toe. Either way, he was a natural. Now you might think that a guy who looked like he could be blown over by a strong breeze wouldn't exactly strike fear into the hearts of the enemy. But Audie? He was like a chihuahua with the heart of a lion and the bite of a shark. The Nazis never knew what hit him. He started off in North Africa, then moved on to Sicily, and finally landed in France just after D-Day. During the Allied invasion of southern France, Audie's best friend was killed by a German soldier pretending to surrender. But Audie? He went on a one-man rampage that would make Rambo look like a Boy Scout. This guy was like a real-life action hero. He'd charge machine gun nests, take out snipers, and lead attacks that should have been suicide missions. Audie Murphy was racking up medals faster than I rack up bad jokes. Now, let's talk about Audie's bling. And no, I'm not talking about rapper-style chains and grills. I'm talking about military medals. This guy had so many medals, he probably jangled when he walked. Let's start with the big one, the Medal of Honor. Audie snagged it for a particularly insane act of bravery. Picture this. It's January 26, 1945, in eastern France. Audie's company is under attack by German infantry and tanks. He jumps on an abandoned, burning tank destroyer and holds off the entire German attack. For an hour. By himself. Wounded. Just a casual day at the office for Audie Murphy. He also earned every single U.S. combat award available at the time. Distinguished Service Cross, 2 Silver Stars, 3 Purple Hearts, and more. He even got some fancy French and Belgian medals. By the end of the war, Audie had more medals than an Olympic swimming team. All right, folks, now we're getting to the part where our boy Audie trades in his rifle for a script. After the war, Audie was like, "You know what? I've conquered Europe. Might as well conquer Hollywood too." And just like that, he was off to Tinseltown faster than you can say action. Now, you might think that transitioning from war hero to movie star would be tough. But for Audie, it was like going from beating up Nazis to, well, pretending to beat up Nazis. His first big break came when James Cagney saw his picture on the cover of Life magazine. Cagney was like, "This kid's got moxie," and invited him to Hollywood. And just like that, Audie Murphy, action star, was born. But here's the kicker. Audie's first few roles were, let's just say they weren't exactly Oscar-worthy. He started out in bit parts, playing characters with deep, meaningful names like the Kid or the Youth. But our boy Audie wasn't about to let a few lousy roles get him down. He kept at it, and eventually, he started landing bigger parts. He even played himself in the movie version of his autobiography, To Hell and Back. Section 6. Action star or real-life superhero? Why not both? Now, you might be thinking, Jimmy, come on, how good could this guy really be at acting? He was a soldier, not a thespian. Well, let me tell you, Audie Murphy wasn't just good. He was surprisingly awesome. He had this natural charisma that just oozed off the screen. It was like watching a bald eagle ride a Harley while eating apple pie. Pure, unadulterated Americana. Audie ended up starring in over 40 films during his 21-year acting career. And get this, most of them were Westerns. That's right, our boy went from fighting Nazis to fighting outlaws faster than you can say yeehaw. He was like a real-life cowboy, except instead of learning to ride horses on the ranch, he learned while chasing down German tanks. But here's the thing that really blows my mind. While Audie was busy being a movie star, he was also still in the military. He joined the Texas National Guard in 1950 and eventually rose to the rank of major. So, this guy was literally living a double life. Action hero by day, actual hero, also by day. And let's not forget, this was all happening during the 1950s and 60s. Audie Murphy making the rest of us look lazy since 1945. Section 7. The lighter side of a war hero. Murphy's Mischief. Now, you might be thinking that with all this hero stuff, Audie Murphy must have been a pretty serious guy. But let me tell you, our boy had a mischievous streak a mile wide. He might have been America's most decorated soldier, but he was also America's most decorated prankster. Take, for instance, his time on movie sets. Audie loved to pull pranks on his co-stars and crew members. One time, he convinced the entire cast and crew that he had a twin brother who was even more decorated than he was. He'd show up to set one day as Audie and the next as his brother, complete with a different accent and personality. It took weeks before anyone caught on. And then there was the time he decided to liven up a boring day of filming by staging a mock battle with the stunt team. Picture this. You're a tourist visiting a Hollywood set, and suddenly you see America's most famous war hero leading a charge against a group of cowboys. The studio executives were not amused, but the tourists got one heck of a show. Section 8. Post-war struggles. Even heroes have bad days. Now, folks, it's time to get a little serious for a moment. Because even superheroes have their kryptonite, and for Audie Murphy, it was the aftermath of war. You see, all those incredible feats of bravery came with a price, and that price was something we now call post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD. Back in Audie's day, they didn't have a fancy name for it. They just called it battle fatigue or shell shock, and the general attitude was pretty much, walk it off, soldier. But you can't just walk off the kind of stuff Audie had seen and done. This was deep, soul-shaking stuff. Audie struggled with nightmares, mood swings, and what he called battle fatigue. He'd wake up in the middle of the night, thinking he was back in the war. Sometimes he'd dive for cover at loud noises on movie sets. Despite all this inner turmoil, Audie Murphy became one of the first public figures to speak openly about PTSD. In an era when mental health was barely understood and rarely discussed, especially for men, Audie was out there saying, "Hey, it's okay not to be okay." He advocated for better mental health care for veterans, using his fame to shine a light on a problem that many people wanted to ignore. Section 9. Legacy of a Legend, More Than Just Medals. All right, folks, we're in the home stretch now. So what's the legacy of this pint-sized powerhouse, this real-life action hero, this cowboy soldier actor extraordinaire? Well, let me tell you, it's a lot more than just a bunch of shiny medals and some old Western movies. First off, Audie Murphy's story has inspired generations of soldiers. I mean, if a scrawny kid from Texas can become the most decorated soldier in U.S. history, anything's possible, right? And that's the legacy of Audie Murphy, a true American hero whose story continues to inspire.